Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, September 4th. We are on the Americas account to do a Tavern Brawl. We have a special daily quest to do Tavern Brawl. Also, my fingers hurt really bad because I was hearing noise in my computer as I just moved things around and put in a new video card. I'd moved the old video card to a lower slot so it was closer to the bottom. Turned out that there was a wire simply just not zip tied down low enough. So this is a reminder when building your computers, go crazy with the zip ties. Make sure all your wires are super tight, super where they should be. Now, if my computer case was modern in any way and not at least 12 years old, the wires for the front side panel, which is what the wire was, which is like the LED light, the power button, the reset button, maybe some USB ports in the front, all of that would be sheathed in one group and have very little room in which it could, in any individual wire, could potentially bend its way upward and hit the fan. But unfortunately that wasn't the case, so there was this wire that was hitting the fan. I don't think it's a big deal. It is a big deal, certainly. It's another example of me being rusty and building a computer, but it didn't, I think, damage the video card. What possibly did damage the video card, though, is the struggle to get the old video card out. I bent up the metal bracket that you attach the back part of the video card to the case with pretty badly, trying to pull it out, and it turned out what had happened is there's just such little room there that the connector, the DVI connector in particular, had a piece of metal that was hitting the other piece of metal in the case. So I was pulling up with a lot of force, and that's why my fingers hurt now and are all blistered. I was basically pulling up with a lot of force, metal on metal, and of course it's not going to go anyway. This again is because my case is just really old. Nowadays, a good computer case, and this is a little bit of a shopping trick, you kind of need a way in which you can completely vertically lift a card in and out of your computer case with nothing obstructing it. So that would mean that there needs to be a cutout on the top part of where you mount your brackets. If there isn't a cutout there, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to kind of angle it in a little bit, or you're going to have to hover the card above the connector, then angle it, shift it a little bit to the left. It's just really tight and really difficult, and it's not a good setup. So yeah, I wasted a lot of time last night taking apart the computer and fixing that, and hurt myself in the process, bending over, hurting my back in the process also. But frankly, every time I bend over at this point, I'm hurting my back. It's not good. I guess we need to play as Warlock on the Tavern Brawl, so let's hop in here and start playing. We've got a lot of news. Let's see, this is League of Explorers revived. The League is scattered across the globe. Join Elise in the dungeon crawl to find and reunite the League. So this seems like this is going to be a special quest anyways. So
a dark conspirator has crossed my path. Something is afoot.
So do I have to do this whole thing, or do I just have to do the first part and win? Because if I have to do all 8 of this is potentially going to be long.
Elise versus Tervis.
So yeah, that would kind of suck.
One of these.
Class is in
I am happy to say I'm done with Control. I have streamed it all and gone back and renamed all the live streams. So there's a part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I got rid of the 5-minute stream in which I started and then immediately had to go to the bathroom, which happens more often than you would realize. And I renamed the Hearthstone that was streamed that accidentally was labeled as Control back to Hearthstone. So if you were to Google Rydo and then Control, you should get part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 6, and be able to watch my entire gameplay from the beginning to the end. For what it's worth, it's funny, like, because I went back and watched the Giant Bomb quick look of Quantum Break, which would have been Remedy's game before then, and I feel like there were definitely elements in Quantum Break, in the first person shooting and in the actions, and just like the fact that you could in Quantum Break pop out of cover, shoot at something, and then pop back into cover, and yet that's not in Remedy. The fact that you have these conversations from a further away third-person perspective with characters, and yet that's really not in Remedy. Everything goes into a very zoomed-in, one-on-one cutscene when you're talking to people. Not that you talk to people very very often in Control. There is a small collection of people that you talk to, and when you talk to them, I was completely uninterested in hearing what they had to say, and I'm off-put by the animation. I would fully admit that Quantum Break was crazy and silly to try and have a TV series, which is what they did. Have a TV series that plays in conjunction with the video game, and that's insane. But Control really isn't much different. There are definitely a lot of cutscenes and a lot of budget given over to actors and making full motion videos in Control that really that budget would have been better suited to make the game better. I will say, I like the ray tracing and watching Digital Foundry's comparison with the ray tracing on and off in their long video in which they compare performance for Control, which is terrible. Yeah, when ray tracing is on, it does a lot of reflections. It makes mirrors actually work for the first time in video games. It's apparently RTX is even better in Control than they've ever been in anything else. So Tomb Raider that added RTX, and Wolfenstein Youngbloods that has RTX technology added into it. Apparently they're not as good, but it's not well displayed to me as far as Control, because Control doesn't make good use of lighting in general. It's still an incredibly dark game even when ray tracing is turned off. They clearly had the director of lighting, whoever was in charge of lighting areas of the game, they had him drop the ball intentionally and focus all of his attention on instead having ray tracing moments, instead of just not having dark corridors. And there should be some kind of Unreal plugin, certainly, that scans all of the 3D areas and goes, this area is particularly dark, this area is particularly dark, maybe you want to put something here. And that's really ironic because Control, and both Remedy and for Quantum Break and Control, love to put way too many textures and way too many 3D models in an area. Way too many things that you can pick up and throw, which is redundant because if there is literally nothing near you to pick up and throw, it just automatically grabs a chunk of the floor and throws it at them. And I don't think it even leaves holes in the floor when it does that, so you can just basically spawn.
I don't think so.
Spawn random garbage to throw at people. So it makes very little sense that you'll have offices with. It makes sense that there's offices. It makes sense that there's filing cabinets. It makes sense that there's desks. It makes sense that there's a few things on the desks. A lot of that stuff could have had physics turned off and made them just stationary always. It doesn't make sense when you have an office that has no less than 30 individualized posters on the wall and 50 individualized little 3D models of something on each desk, and then there's another desk right next to it. The model count is insanely through the roof, which means the physics is insanely through the roof, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe my computer is a little bit bottlenecked as far as the CPU, but I wouldn't suspect by much. My CPU is pretty old, but I yet to really see anything that says that I need to buy a new one. That being said, 2 years from now, probably, here's your shopping advice for the next couple of years. Probably as soon as the China-US trade war goes away, that would probably be the safest time to build a new computer, because you just don't know if some other trade war will start up, or it'll probably skyrocket in price in the meantime. So yeah, my plan, which would be greatly helped by donations or something, would be to build a new computer in the next couple of years.
What shall we hunt? Aloof Neladar.
I'm almost about to die here. Yeah. So yeah, I like that ray tracing works and makes reflections, but it doesn't work well, because there was a point where I could walk up to a piece of glass and you would have a transparent reflection, which is something that you couldn't easily do. I'm not sure I've ever actually seen any video game do it up until this point, or cheated in any way. And it looks amazing. It looks great. Most of the other elements, though, are from like most of the ray tracing, though, is done from other things that you wouldn't even particularly recognize. Reflections on wet floors and elements like that. Yeah, I'm gonna lose here. All that effort for nothing. So you won't even see them if you're looking, unless you're looking for them. Control has a similar issue, certainly, because it is probably the first game to actually have signs that point you in the right direction. There are actually signs on the walls that point you in the right direction, whereas very, very often you'll see fake signs or signs that just kind of don't point anywhere, and they just get copy and pasted and replaced and repeated. Every sign that says it goes to like the ritual division actually goes to the ritual division. Every sign is at least moderately well placed. And it's a good thing for it because the map itself is not good by any means. Giant Bomb's Bombcast even got into how the inventory system is lackluster, considering all the mods you pick up, which that whole mod system is clearly designed from a greedy perspective and should have never been in the game.
What are you doing skulking around here?
But yeah, it's weird because I started this conversation and I don't think I finished it. I'm scatterbrained, and I'll get to why in a second.
Beetleberries, my favorite.
The exact people that were in the Quantum Break Quick Look a couple of years ago for Giant Bomb were saying that they really, really loved Quantum Break. That they didn't love Quantum Break, but they really loved Control. Which, hearing that, I was thinking, man, am I at this point 180 degrees off of Giant Bomb? And the answer might be yes. I think I might very well just be at the point where I'm at a complete opposite opinion, or somehow I remember playing more games than they do, or somehow, I mean, it is a ridiculous statement to say that I've played more games than like the main people of Giant Bomb, but I wouldn't be surprised if they've forgotten things, certainly. My comparisons to Control were The Evil Within, because The Evil Within, while not a particularly great game, is a better game trying to be a horror, where Control is not trying to be a horror, but probably should have been. But The Evil Within's best comparison to Control is that The Evil Within is set in the mind of a crazy person. It uses dream logic. It jumps you from different area to different area to different area. It doesn't even bother to try to explain how you get from one area to another area. And I very well may have complained about that when it came out and when I was covering it. But in the game Control, you're supposed to be in this magical house that shifts and changes, and the house really never does, the oldest house is what it's called, never really does shift and change. What causes it to change is the bad guy, the Hiss, which is your only bad guy for the entirety of the game, which really just boils down to a bunch of soldier-like or zombie-like characters that you're gonna fight over and over again, with not a lot of variety, and almost none of the boss battles are interesting at all. It's not good. It is 15 hours at least of grinding through fights. So I really don't know how anybody liked it. Like, I really don't.
This isn't a moonblade.
Let's see. Well, let's do this, I guess.
Job's done.
Because I was so rushing through Control. Like, there's totally missions I missed and skipped because I just did not want to go to another area and play more. And all the game does at the end is tell you need to go to other areas and play more. And it's like, no, I don't want to play this game anymore. I haven't been having any fun. I think a big division between my lack of enjoyment for Control and other people's, well, mainstream video game journalists like, which their like is not even universal, because even the Beastcast people that did the quick look on Control said it's a mediocre game. Basically, they did not really like it either. So yeah.
Bathe in flames.
So yeah, there's a there's a disconnect between the Giant Bomb West, the original Giant Bomb group, and the Giant Bomb East group, as far as whether they like the game or not. And that's not a big deal. People are entitled to have different opinions. But in their praise of Control, they weren't saying anything substantive. Like, when you're ending your sentence saying basically, I don't even have a way of saying how good this is anymore, or I don't have a different way of saying how good this is. You're putting a lot of praise on it, but you're not explaining any of the reasons why you're putting praise on it, which is always something that you should be suspicious of. Throughout my coverage of Control, I'm trying to get down to, in my coverage of every game, I try to get down to the exact elements that I find I like or don't like. I think a big split is if you do like Deadly Premonition, which they announced the Deadly Premonition 2 out of the blue. If you like Twin Peaks, which Deadly Premonition was heavily inspired by it. If you liked Alan Wake, which was heavily inspired by Twin Peaks and Deadly Premonition. Like, if you like all of these things already, I think you're at, in a weird way.
That is outside my reach.
Give a minion reborn. Oh, I can't cast a spell on it.
This be our neck of the woods. Tell me the truth.
The League of Evil will crush you.
The League of what?
Okay, so I don't really have to go any further on this. So I don't know if I really want to go any further on this. I think we'll try. What cards do we want? Let's take some recovery cards, I guess.
I need help. It is time to round up the League of Explorers.
So it seems like you're going to be going against the League of Explorers and beating them. Unless these are all non-actual fights.
Lees versus Sir Finley.
Buried Finley. Interesting.
Class is in session.
So, yeah, I think if you have this love for Twin Peaks and you were reading all of the ridiculously large amount of text that you could pick up and collect. Sir Finley's buried in the sand, clear the sand. Alright, so here's immune to death rattle. Is immune death rattle. Uncover what is beneath the sand. Deal 1 damage to all minions, summon a pile of sand. Each turn. So if I play this, this will die, I think, in the next turn.
Finley should be here somewhere.
I heard there was something marvelous buried here. Didn't realize it might be me.
A
So we need to see what this unburies. Alright, so I'm doomed.
The rage. It flames me.
Because this is just going to continuously summon more scarabs. Or random things that summon scarabs. Okay. Let's try this.
Job done.
That kinda worked, but not really. I should have had this on the field first and then cast that spell. That would have worked way better. And you. Oh, why bother even playing those when you know they're just gonna take damage? Well, this tavern brawl feels like it's just gonna be a nightmare tavern brawl, even starting here. Let's see.
This isn't known to
This. Another turn. Yeah, so I think if people have a special love for X-Files or Twin Peaks or something, or Remedy in particular, they like Control a lot more than me. I also kind of just wonder if maybe there's some BS shilling going on here. They maybe Remedy paid the bribe this time and they didn't pay it before. But yeah, I definitely did not like Control. I thought it was mediocre at best, and there could have been a good game there. I like the idea of doing Friday the 13th, the TV series, which is basically what it was. I like the idea of Beyond Two Souls being an element in that, although they really didn't do enough with that for it to matter. So that was a bit of a weird choice also. Let's see. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit this and kill it, I guess. But they didn't implement that well. There was a terrible hero's journey, and I've said all of this at the end of the stream, but there's a really bad hero's journey where the character you're playing as is literally made the most important person in the story at the beginning and given special powers and special privilege. It really is what a schizophrenic would dream up. That if they had ended the game saying that, oh, actually all of this was just happening in your head, I would have been completely accepting of that ending. Alright, so if we hit this, and then we hit this, we can at least do that.
Job done. Behold.
There was really no reason for the main character that you're playing as to have any connection whatsoever to what was going on, and by the end of the story she's 100% the reason that everything is going on the way it is, and so it's just like self-serving and self-conceited. Seriously, I didn't think that was gonna give points to his guy. Give a minion reborn. And do this. I don't think there's a benefit of casting this spell.
Scry more.
Aloof Neladar.
Scry more.
So yeah, there's really not even a lot to say about control, because the architecture of the level design is so boring. The hiss red shadows with so many other just wisps of pearlescent mist that appeared all over the place. Very much not really explaining any of those wisps of fog, for lack of a better term. So even though the ray tracing might look nice, you're just gonna see a bunch of red. It's like 60% of the game is some shade of red, where I would say another 15 to 20% of the game is some shade of the blackest black you've ever seen. You should definitely turn up the brightness and just let it be blown out. And watching footage of other people, that seems to be the case for everybody. It doesn't seem like I was just having some kind of weird color lineup or brightness issue, because it's pretty impossible to have a game that is super dark in some areas and then blown out super bright, like you're staring at the sun in other areas. Like that's a game design issue.
I am in your debt, but why did you seek me out?
So, and see, that was supposed to be
The city
easy.
of Dalaran. They are moving into Uldum.
I shall return.
So now I guess I could play that as him now, so I could choose a different character if I have to start over. So you get a little bit of a checkpoint on this Tavern Brawl. Alright. So, as we move on from Control, because there's really not a lot more, go watch like the last hour of part 6 and you'll see a pretty good representation of all the problems with Control in a nutshell. It's way too difficult. In fairness, I will say that the Giant Bomb, Quick Look, they seem to die a few less times than me, but they definitely were dying in a Quick Look, and you almost never see that. They ran into glitches that I also ran into. Glitches being maybe too strong a term. They ran into situations where enemies could not find where you are and do proper pathfinding for their crazy vertical brutalist level designs. Because of that, you would have an enemy hidden somewhere around some corner, and you wouldn't be able to move forward. Or at least it seemed like that was the issue. Maybe that wasn't the issue at all. Maybe it was just a glitch. There's definitely a section in the research area that I never could get through. So there was a whole area I went through 3 or 4 times, and I just died. And because of the checkpoints being so bad in the game, as far as where you respawn, you cannot. It was not worth it to continue to struggle and to continue to die. To try and make it to that next section. Okay, so we're working together to kill this guy, and he'll summon a random dinosaur. Let's see. I'm gonna take this. Yeah.
Why are you fighting those creatures?
I feel like by the time people get around to being able to play Control on Steam, nobody's gonna want to play Control. Now I got another game with my video card, which was Wolfenstein Youngbloods, and by the time I get around to playing that, which I suspect today is Wednesday, maybe we'll start streaming that on Saturday and do the same thing I did here. It did get me some subscribers live streaming the pre-recording footage. I was not looking at the chat. I definitely saw somebody on the chat doing their standard say my name, try to pronounce my name BS. And since I wasn't looking at the chat at the time, I didn't respond to any of the chat, so whatever. If it did get me one subscriber though, so, and it did get me more views than what a Hearthstone stream gets me these days. So there is an argument to be made to continue to cover things if they are brand new games, and I think Wolfenstein Youngbloods does still qualify as a new enough game. Also, it's kind of getting patched, so my experience, if I was to play it now, I need to do maybe just a little bit of research there, but I think my experience playing Wolfenstein Youngbloods will be better than people who played it day one or pre-launch. I don't expect it to be a great game regardless, but
This be our neck of the woods.
it would be nice to. It would be nice if it's a slightly better experience. I could hit this guy. There's kind of no reason not to. Oh yeah, there is a reason not to. I'm trying to get my field up so I can give them damage. But I can't have 7 characters because then they'll destroy my entire field. So yeah, but I definitely, to use an old phrase, I definitely did not check myself before I wrecked myself playing Control. I wanted to cover this in particular and mention this. It's like, I haven't had any free time to do basically anything for at least a week, and so and I'm gonna admit it here, I haven't bathed in like a week, and that's not good. Like, I just scratched my chin and I'm seeing flakes of skin fly off in the air. That's not good at all. I did put on deodorant, but yeah, I just taking every single opportunity that I can to live stream as fast as possible. I'm still not as good as most people that can do that. Most Twitch streamers, like, I remember when one of the Binding of Isaac's new versions came out, and there was 2 very famous streamers. One had traveled to the other person's house, and they were just trading off every hour. They were trading off like every 12 hours or so of gameplay. And so one person would like sleep while the other person would play, and then the other person would play while the other person would sleep. Yeah, you can do some of that when you have two people, but when it's one person and they suffer from insomnia and they're often struggling for 3 to 6 to potentially 10 hours to go to sleep. Yeah, my insomnia in no way improved by me working harder and streaming more, and then just trying to do other things. I barely found any time to eat. I barely found any time I didn't find any time to do anything else. So it's not a healthy process, to say the least, to try and cover a video game as fast as possible. And I'll try to do it for Wolfenstein Youngbloods, but I definitely could not engage if somebody was giving me money on Patreon to the point where I could spend $60 every week, or if somebody was gifting me a game on Steam as soon as it was out, if they were like pre-ordering brand new AAA games, I really couldn't do it. And most video game journalists can't. Like, I don't think that the Giant Bomb West group, I don't think the people that were singing the praises of Control, I'm fairly certain none of them had actually finished Control. And they got it early, and they had a whole week to do it. So, they're not moving much faster than I am. But there's just an unreasonableness to the whole thing.
The fate of the world depends on
try and just rush through a game. Meanwhile, YouTube and viewers totally want to see you rush through a game. The only reason I'm getting views from people on Control is because it's brand new and people want to see the ending and want to see the whole game played through as much as I did play it. Control is particularly bad about random grindy side missions that I didn't do, whereas I think Wolfenstein Youngbloods would be a more linear experience. I don't think it's going to be a great experience. But after that, I'm going to have to spend a considerable amount of time just on the paperwork in the back end, because I've streamed these games, I haven't been focusing and I haven't done any recordings of Torchlight, which was the game I was playing before my computer broke, and I had to fix it. It's now working, and by the way, I spent a couple hours trying to turn off the LED on the GTX 2080, which was a nightmare. Certainly. I also, in the process of installing 4 or 5 different applications that said they could turn off the LED and control the LED. Randomly deal 4 damage. I guess I'm trying to defeat Reno Jackson. This is League of Evil Revive Reno Jackson. Was Reno Jackson a bad guy?
Oops.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing.
This isn't
So yeah, I haven't been doing Torchlight. I'm gonna have to go and break up all the episodes of Control. I probably need to break up all the episodes of Control and...
You are basically nothing like me.
I don't know what else I can even do there. I need to probably do something because it's going to be questionable whether I even have enough hard drive space to have Wolfenstein Youngbloods in its entirety on my wall recording and Control wall recording, because both of those games are making particularly large videos. I'm gonna have to go look and see if I've even started uploading Torchlight. Maybe I haven't, so maybe I can just break up Control and start recording.
What shall we hunt?
Recording or uploading Control first, and have it just scheduled to air at a different time, kind of out of order. I hate to do that, but it might be the only real deal. So there's like a lot of back-end paperwork stuff that needs to be done too. I feel like I'm
The end begins. Job's done.
So yeah, there's a ton of work that has to be done still after the fact.
Science overwhelming.
It'll be questionable whether I can even finish Torchlight 2 and have that air on top of Wolfenstein Youngbloods. Well, let's start going through the news. We've got a ton of news to talk about. There was a ton of games that we had left. It was like 100 games that we hadn't covered at the end of last stream, and we may still just end up having games left over at the end of this stream. Summon King Crush? Well, apparently I can summon King Crush.
You'll find me wherever the action is. Job's done.
So yeah, a Nintendo Direct happened, so a significant amount of Nintendo stuff happened. I suppose to quickly cover the Zoe Quinn accusations that led to someone committing suicide, regardless of whether or not these accusations were true or not, and basically cancel culture. I will say Giant Bomb went out of their way to do bad news reporting and not mention Zoe Quinn by name in their talking of it. They talked of it. They named the person who committed suicide, but they chose not to name the accuser in any way, which is just bad news and unfair news reporting. I mean, you can't really go in any other direction than say that's bad reporting and unfair news reporting to not name the accuser but name the accused. Or, I mean, the whole thing flips around depending on what the accusation is, because now the accusation could be that Zoe Quinn literally caused the suicide or helped cause the suicide of a person, which there have been cases where people have done that and gotten mostly kids up until this point, and there hasn't been too many immature adults that have done this.
The rage. It claims me.
But yeah, so there's a lot of still anti-Gamergate stuff going around in Giant Bomb, even though Giant Bomb has massively never really admitted it or said it. They are a major player there of the group that is trying that has consistently tried to protect Zoe Quinn while Zoe Quinn is still doing awful things. Is there a problem with doing this right now?
Job's done.
Seems like we're just playing the odds here. But yeah, there's not much else that can be reported on that. Apparently, according to Giant Bomb, but then again doing terrible news reporting. Again, they claim they aren't news reporters, so they don't have to do a good job. They said there were several other accusations around other people and such. I didn't see any of those news stories. This is probably because it was just a straight up free-for-all in which everybody and anybody that wanted to make an accusation did make an accusation. And credibility should be zero for basically anybody that made an accusation. They also tried to make a pathetic argument that, well, these people didn't report it in time, therefore there's no legal repercussions, or the accusations they're making aren't illegal in any way, so there's no repercussions. And like, well, that means you should just probably shut your mouth at that point. Like, if somebody pisses me off but does nothing illegal to me, you know what I should do? Maybe nothing. Just shut my mouth and not publicly defame a person and slander a person. There's a reason we have slander laws and such. If you can't bring about a court case, then you can't do anything about it. And of course, yeah, the whole story is just completely being misconstrued by Giant Bomb and yellow journalism to the max. Let's report on one thing and not mention the other things. Let's not mention the fact that Zoe Quinn has a long history of losing more and more credibility. She has a long history of acting, sleeping with journalists. Journalists have a long history of sleeping with her. Giant Bomb and most people would be best suited to not report on her at all, and I mostly, thank goodness, they don't.
This be our neck of the woods.
But to even now come out and try to make it seem like she's your friend or give her special treatment that she doesn't deserve shows you're still not thinking straight. And Zoe Quinn, I heard, and this really does sound like I just have some kind of personal bias on her. I've never dealt with her, don't know anything about her, frankly. I don't care anything at all, but think I could possibly survive this.
Aloof Neladar.
No, I don't think so. I'm just trying to see if I can get this guy to run out of cards and start taking fatigue damage. This thing is going to be doing 21 damage next turn.
The circle of life is over.
But yeah. 1/5 scabs with taunts, that'd be better. Go ahead and play that too.
Job's done.
But yeah. But yeah, Zoe Quinn took down her Twitter and then brought it up and put some kind of weird stuff from what I hear. A lot of the news I get around the whole Gamergate stuff in particular is from people that have at the very least been called alt-right, whether it's true or not. Where I personally have been called a extremely progressive liberal by at least Facebook. That's what they classified me as. And I would lean to believe that to be extremely true. It's the difference, I think, between me and SJWs, which even progressives and liberals, real progressives and liberals have a problem with.
Practice against the League of Evil.
Is
Yes! Who are they again?
I actually want to listen to the other side and make my own decisions and hear both sides of the story. And I try to do that with as little bias as possible. I don't know how well I succeed. Do I have a lot of minions that cost 5 or more? Yeah, alright. We'll take that. I don't think I'm really getting any of the other quests done while I'm doing this, but I
The League of
do want
Explorers
to finish
has
this.
returned, but we have attracted some attention.
Well, this is slightly shorter than the regular challenge with only 5 enemies.
Elise versus Dark
I guess
Tekan.
going forward,
Call forth my voice.
I could probably
Class is in session.
try to make a commitment to not report on any Me Too, Time's Up type accusations, cancel culture, which is, I guess, the new term, accusations, unless it does actually affect the video game industry. But I would guess it probably does. Just the accusation itself affects the industry.
Job's done.
So I kind of have to report on it.
Has been set.
Like, I could put my foot on in.
Cannot be undone.
I could draw a line in the sand
We will
and
see
say
about
I'm not going to
that.
report on any of these whatsoever, and I'd be more than happy to do that. But then the stories would come around like 4 or 5 years ago from now, where it's like, why hasn't there been a sequel to Night in the Woods, for instance? And then I would have to go and do the research, and then I'd be uninformed to go, oh yeah, the guy who, one of the main persons who worked on Night of the Woods, was accused of this thing and killed himself. So that's really where it comes into play. Anyways, let's move on to the Nintendo Direct announcements. We'll try to go through this pretty fast. Vampire for the Switch launches October 29th. Vampire, not V-A-M-P-Y-R, not a particularly hugely successful game. Mediocre at best would be my guess. Playing it on the Switch would definitely not be the best experience that you could get from that. Let's see. What do I want to do? I think I just want to do this.
Aloof Neladar.
And just do that. But this Nintendo Direct in general, I think, was designed to announce more games than normal. It's a little strange. I don't know if that's because they're not going to be announcing anything around Tokyo Game Show, because I felt like Tokyo Game Show was close to happening. So I'm a little confused as to the timing here. To do a Nintendo Direct right after PAX West, which again, PAX West, according to Giant Bomb, was super awkward because all of these accusations and all of these stories were coming out right as PAX West was happening. I don't feel like there was a significant number of games announced during PAX West to have to counter program to, and I don't feel like anybody was actually going to try and counter program to PAX West announcements anyways. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Minecraft DuckTales content now available to explore. So I don't know what any of this is. I guess it's just skins in an adventure map. Apparently this might be officially licensed. Minecraft went in kind of a weird direction, certainly when they started having their launcher and custom maps and being able to buy that stuff via a store. Whereas like the Minecraft the Minecraft marketplace went weird. So yeah, I guess this is an officially licensed thing. Otherwise somebody just made a DuckTales map, which would, I will guess I'm fine with that too. I don't care. If you have no duplicates, discover an upgraded hero power. Alright.
Onward to adventure.
2 damage, 2 attack, and 2 armor, or 3 damage, which would do more in the long run. I think this would do more in the long run than having armor. You don't have a death rattle. I'll draw a card.
For the pack.
There we go. That really didn't have anything to do with the Nintendo Direct, though. That was just a side story. Control, to get back to that, really was about the closest game I've played that felt like it wanted to be a visual novel. That wasn't a visual novel. And if they wanted to do a visual novel, that same story probably would work pretty well. Or if they were going to do a comic book or something like that, something that really made a lot of sense there. Let's go and hit that and hit that. Yeah, but they clearly weren't super interested in doing a video game. And they threw out a lot of objects of power, and the objects of power, well, I missed a lot of them too. I can guarantee that there's at least 6 objects of power that I did not bother to even look at. I'm getting my butt handed to me here, so I need to play more carefully or I'm gonna die. So yeah, if you had had a couple of issues of a comic book, so like 45, 50 pages of some kind of graphic novel, yeah, I'm gonna just lose. Whatever. I don't care. I don't care about this Tavern Brawl enough to actually beat it all the way through. Maybe we'll do that on Friday.
None defy me.
If I was to come back and choose this, I think now...
A dark conspirator has crossed my path. Something is afoot.
no, you can't even play as a different character. Weird. I would have thought you could play as a different character there. Well, Warlock class cards. Do we want to leave those for Friday? Probably not. Let's go along and play ranked while we're bringing it. So yeah, not a TV series or a comic book or a little bit longer graphic novel, even a manga that would have been a lot longer. All of those would have been really good ways to add to play with the objects of power. But as a game, they're not emphasized enough. Like, I still, having beaten the game, don't know what the difference between a object of power is and an altered object and an altered world event. They seem to be very interchangeable, or just classifications of things that are very connected. I don't know if this was at the Nintendo Direct, but Kotoba no Puzzle Moji Pitten Encore has been announced for the Switch. This is a Picross looking game, I think, if I was to guess. And I don't think I'm gonna spend too much time watching. Yeah, this looks like a Japanese version of a Picross game. I don't think I'm gonna be spending a lot of time doing trailers today because we gotta catch up. Maybe there was two Switch Nintendo Directs, a Japanese one and a English one. Momotaro Dentetsu Showa Heisei Reiwa Mo Taibin announced. I believe those are different eras, and so is this a train game throughout the eras? That's been announced for the Switch. Again, probably not a game that's going to directly come to the West. Yeah, it seems like it's a train simulator game. A lot of text. A lot of text. Oh, they screwed up my strategy.
So many possibilities.
Well, I need to make sure to play this before I lose, because we're trying to play Warlock cards. Next we have Famicom Tentai Club 1 and 2 remakes have been announced for the Switch. This looks like a visual novel. They're due out in 2020. Let's see. It launched for the Famicom in 1988. So, if it's a 1988 Famicom style game, it's probably not actually much of a game. Yeah, I don't know if this is what an old Famicom visual novel game would be, or if this is a well, you can see the remake has definitely made it look like a modern visual novel interface. It's a little weird. Like, that probably is what visual novels sprung from, was a lot of text-based games. Let's see.
I wonder.
They're not actually tagging it even as a visual novel, but I I'd give it that. It might be a bit more of an adventure or a mystery game. So it might slightly be in a different category than what you would call a standard visual novel is, but it certainly looks like that. They're calling it a adventure game. Which, yeah, in a lot of ways, I guess you can. There is a slight difference there, like an ever so slight difference between a visual novel and an adventure game. An adventure game would have items you collect and different paths that you go through and win and lose scenarios, where a visual novel might have different paths, but probably doesn't have items that you can collect, and probably doesn't have a win or lose scenario that happens before the end of a path. But yeah, comparing a 1988 adventure to a modern visual novel, there's very, very little difference there. I suppose it's more down to what the game creators want to call it. Moving on, we have Kowloon Yuma Gakuki Origin of Adventure announced for the Switch, due out in 2020. These might all be from Arc System Works, so this might have been, but these are Nintendo Directs too, so that's that. Speaking of copyright claims, which is almost certainly what I'm going to get watching these trailers, again, this is more of an adventure game than I would have thought. Yeah, this looks like a full-on adventure dungeon crawler style game. There was 2 copyright claims at the last stream of Control. I'll have to let me know in the comments if you actually do see ads on that video. One was from UMG and one was from I believe Sony. So 2 separate 2 of the worst content ID abusers, both claiming music that was in the game. One of the things claimed is a super important bit of music that you basically would have a horrible experience if you weren't listening to that music while you were doing that section. And in fact, it's called the Ashtray Maze section. That section by far is the best section of the entire game, and it's a shame that there wasn't a lot more like that section.
Unity, precision.
Because then the entire game would feel completely different if it was like that. It feels like a completely different team made the Ashtray Maze section. The other copyright, I imagine, came from the music over the credits, so Control is weird about having a ton of copyrighted music on radios for no good reason. And in the 2 places where they actually spent the energy to integrate good music or a good use of licensed music, you get content ID'd to the point where there is literally a checkbox to say to mute copyrighted music, so I have no idea what the Ashtray Maze would sound like if that was muted. But it would not be good, I guarantee you that much. So, in theory, maybe those streams are going to be maybe those content ID claims are going to be copyright deadlocked in a way so there won't be ads on it. And frankly, I've stopped dealing with claiming fair use because it's not worth the time when you're not monetized anyways. That being said, also I've heard there's another lawsuit against YouTube, and there's this rumor going around that YouTube has stopped listening to any copyright counter DMCA counter notifications. They've just stopped processing them completely for some people, which would be completely illegal. And then yet another violation of them, or instance of them violating the DMCA. But it seems like that's what they're doing, according to this rumor at least. I really would like to see one of these lawsuits that probably doesn't even deserve to win against YouTube and Google. Somebody needs to put them in their place. There needs to be a better law versus the DMCA in the general, but it doesn't even matter if we could get politicians to change the DMCA or get rid of the DMCA, which would be great. It doesn't matter one bit when you have the main marketplace for video content, YouTube, not really following the law anyways. So if a new law comes in, there needs to be severe penalties to people like Google and YouTube when they do the wrong things. First game we have on Steam today is called Botland. It looks like it is a interface overlay for Scratch, which is what I think this coding language is, or what I assume that kind of drag and drop coding language is always. I don't feel like games on Steam should be interfaces for programming languages, whether it's C++ or C# or G++ or Scratch or Java or anything like that. This is free to play, but it's multiplayer only, which is weird, which requires also an account. I don't know why you would do this unless you're trying to get this into schools, and I don't know why a school would specifically want to use this overlay for Scratch when they should probably be teaching Scratch just directly, or you use the Lego software that uses Scratch, or you use the Apple program that uses Scratch. Personally, I don't see any value in Botland, so I'm not gonna put it on the fall list. Next we have for the PS4 and Switch, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast is coming to the PS4 and Switch September 24th, and Jedi Academy Jedi Knight is early 2020. So is Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast a new game, or is this a re-release of an old game or a remaster of an old game? I guess these are old games that have been maybe... This looks like slightly better polygons than what I recall Jedi Knight 2 had. One of the Star Wars Fly Around Rogue Squadron games got a comment on it that I didn't bother to respond to, where the person was saying, just hit R and you'll target the next target, and I'm like, well, I made this video 3 months ago, so I'm not, and it was a spotlight in that case anyway, so it wasn't even like I ever implied I was going to play any more of that anyway. So your post might be helpful for other people, so thank you for that. But for me, yeah, I'm not going back and playing any of those Star Wars fly around games. They are super old and they were super boring and annoying. And frankly, that's kind of true for all the Star Wars games. With the exception of the Lego Star Wars game and a couple others, I have not liked most of the Star Wars games that came out. And I don't expect that to change too much. I don't think I'm particularly the target audience because I'm not a super Star Wars fan anyways. I think I'd probably say the same also about Star Trek games.
Real page
And I don't think there were ever any Babylon 5 games, so there's no comparison, I think, to be made there. Alright, moving on. Matsu has an article. The cult classic RPG Moon is coming to the Switch on October 10th in Japan. The thing about everything called Moon is there's way too many things called Moon. There's a Korean movie that's rather good that I believe is called Moon. There's a indie Western movie called Moon that was pretty good. I'm sure there was a book or two called Moon. I'm sure there's some songs called Moon. And I feel like there's been several games called Moon. As for this game in particular called Moon, I don't recognize this at all. So, while it might be a cult classic that launched on the original PS4 in 1997, I clearly missed it. Or not the original PS4, but original PlayStation PS1. Now, I didn't play any PlayStation games, so never had a PlayStation, never played any of the PS1 games, never played any of the PS2 games. Played a small handful of PS3 games late into its development, and haven't played any PS4 games. So Moon looks like it might be some kind of nostalgia RPG, sure. But I can't really say anything more about it. So in the effort to just keep moving forward, I'll just keep moving forward. Let's play this.
This was not in my contract.
Attack there. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article. Nintendo Direct shows off surprise sequels, new ports, and aggressive urine pitch. This is kind of a combination of everything that was announced. I don't think we need to cover this article because I'm going to just talk about every announcement individually. Maybe Super NES games are coming to the Nintendo Online service. We kind of knew that was happening, so there's really shouldn't be any surprise there. There we go. But yeah, we'll talk about everything else individually on Gamatsu's articles. Deadly Premonition, A Blessing in Disguise has been announced. I do own Deadly Premonition 1, but Deadly Premonition 2 might be a Switch exclusive. Like, it's only tagged for the Switch. So, if I was gonna now try and play both of them,
This will be a mercy.
it would be it'd be weird. The original Deadly Premonition is going to be on the Switch via the eShop under the name Deadly Premonition Origins, and the physical edition will be released in November. I don't know after playing Control if I'm really in the mood to try to play a Deadly Premonition. Anyways, if anything, it would be a good comparison to Control because Deadly Premonition has the weirdness of Control, but in an open world, which Control desperately needed. But it also has major problems with it too, and so the question really will come down to: can Deadly Premonition 2 turn itself into a better and more smoothly animated and programmed game, or is it going to be a janky mess? Because that's let's see. Here's a IGN review. They gave it a terrible 2 out of 10. Awful in every way. Terrible controls, terrible pacing, terrible sound effects, terrible visuals. The Metacritic average, however, gives it an 8.3 out of 10. So you could be very up and down, and I could definitely understand why there would be a lot of different versions of opinions out there as far as Deadly Premonition goes, because it effectively was a game designed by, I think, mostly one person and made by mostly one person who arguably is further away from the level of sanity than you normally would expect. It is a weird niche Japanese product. It is right there, as weird and as niche as most Japanese weird niche projects are. That would even make it to the West at least. Major Nelson mentioned Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville Founders Edition is available. I wanted to check that just to see if we can click this picture and see what this game actually is, because clearly this is not Plants vs. Zombies 3. This is Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 3, I believe, after they kind of put so many microtransactions in Garden Warfare that they no longer have a positive association with that name. That would be my guess.
Flesh fails. Try
My seal for Argon.
Next, the Assassin's Creed The Rebel Collection has been announced for the Switch. This will include the 2013 and 2014 re-released Assassin's Creed titles in a dual pack. So that's Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered for the Switch. They're skipping any bundling for Assassin's Creed 3. So, as I understand the bundles for Assassin's Creed, I believe it was they completely skipped one, which had Altair as the main character. They did a trilogy bundle for the Ezio collection, and then they skipped 3. So, the trilogy bundle for the Altair collection would be Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Revelations, and Assassin's Creed.
Job's done.
One was called Revelations, and the other one was called. I can't even remember the one. Revelations was the third in the Altair in the Ezio collection, so I can't remember what the sequel to it was called. I think it was an R word. Seems like they love to use R words, but wasn't Rogue. It was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, I believe, not an R word. It was a BR word. I guess I might as well just play ranked. We're at the lowest rank 20. There's no reason to change here. So, looking at that in the Rogue collection, Rogue Remastered being the latest game to be bundled, I suspect in the next 5 years we probably won't see a lot of bundling of any of the other Assassin's Creed games, because Syndicate was not well received. The one after Syndicate, which I can't remember the name, wasn't particularly well received. It's not till you get to Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey that you start to get to another trilogy that is or the beginning, 2 games of a potential trilogy that changed the game drastically. So I think that there is a very high chance they will skip doing any more bundles. But it definitely is an example of how Assassin's Creed in particular is this series that has been a mess and does not have a consistent storyline. Whereas if you compare it to, I guess, oops, that's not what I meant to do.
That a turn to get ready.
I guess if you were to compare it to Sleeping Dogs also has been not Sleeping Dogs, but Watch Dogs. Yeah, Watch Dogs has been a terrible series too. There's zero reason to play Watch Dogs 1. It seems like there's zero reason to play Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs 2 now. So, yeah. There we go. Control for the explosive trap. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Rogue Company, a new IP from Hi-Res Studios coming to the Switch. So this is a brand new IP, and it's always nice to hear about brand new IPs instead of re-releases, particularly on the Switch, because let's face it, when you're talking Switch content, you're also often just getting a re-release or a garbage release of something else. This wouldn't save me anyway, so I'm gonna just kill this. Look at this strategy I'm doing right against the explosive traps. Both those are explosive traps, useless to him. Rogue Company seems to involve real-time tactical style mechanics. Let's skip down to see if we got any videos. No, it's slated for spring 2020. We'll hear more about it. It's not really actionable, and all you have is this group of people that could be anything. Like, talk about generic selection. This. And
Get in there,
this.
fight, maggot.
And attack here. Alright. Yeah, I could get into a rant here. Well, you've got your full diversity quota of the characters too. You have what might be a British guy, or might just be a standard guy. You have your female ninja, and you have your African American male mercenary. So, like, a diverse selection, certainly, in a generic image. But yeah, there's nothing to say or that should be said about a game that's just been announced. We'll do this. We'll do this. We'll attack here. Let's see what we can do with that. Let's see what we can do with that.
Stone shall break your bones.
And then return. Gamasutra has a video here how indies and small studios can succeed with licensed games. I wanted to mention this just to say that it's hard, in my opinion, to succeed with licensed games. Having Telltale in particular fall apart because they were just doing licensed games is a great example of that. Small indie companies almost certainly will have to do some licensed games, or they will have to be contracted to make licensed games. There's a slight difference, though, too, between what Telltale did, where it seems like they actively sought out licenses of other people's product to make games around, and being a third-party developer who makes something like the Harry Potter mobile game, and you've been contracted and you're getting paid to make this game. Like, you take those kind of contracts when you don't have your own IP style product ready to go. You don't have something in development. I could see a company even as big as Gearbox coming around and saying, well, we're not working actively on Borderlands 3 or 4 right now, so let's take a side contracts to make some licensed product. I could totally see doing that, just so you keep your employees employed and working and paid. You can't build your entire business model around that, though, like Telltale did. So, yeah. And yeah, Telltale's back in the news since some new holding company now owns the name to Telltale and is making a new Telltale game. In the long run, this might be an interesting argument and reason for me to go back and start playing Telltale games again, because now there's this story that could be told where I could say, here's the point where these games stopped being made by people that worked at the original Telltale, and here's the point where Telltale version 2.0 came in and they re-released and they continued to sell and bundle all of the old games.
It's time
and just having a company sell the products and make sure that they're still playable with every new version of Windows gives more relevancy to continue to play those types of games. We got 1, 2, 3. Two, 3, and then I want to take this guy out. I don't want to just leave him. Let's see, moving on, Komatsu has an article here. A free to start game called Super Kirby Clash has been announced for Switch, available now. I saw a little bit of gameplay from this. It's like a multiplayer game that takes place on one screen, fighting what seems like just one enemy. So, like, it seems like this is all the game is. And it's weird that it's on the Switch and it's not like a mobile game. It seems to be basically all built around getting items and dressing up your Kirby and getting special fights. Then you jump into a fight against a certain boss, kind of like a Monster Hunter game, but on one screen and on Kirby style animation. So yeah, I don't know about it. Like, it is such a weird idea in the first place, going against something like Monster Hunter. Gotta play a little bit faster here. Let's see if we can get more into the cost of it, though. Let's see. seems like it's built around microtransactions, if I was to guess. Because that's the real question: is how much are you really going to end up spending buying all these loot things? And it really does take Nintendo in a direction I've never seen Nintendo willing to go before, which is the straight up, we're going to try and convince kids to spend their money or their parents' money on microtransactions. So, yeah, I would say Nintendo is entering dangerous territory here, potentially ruining the good name of Kirby games, which Kirby games have always been alright. Nobody's had any real complaints about them. They haven't been great. It's nowhere up to the level of like a... What is that? Wow, they've got like a new concession animation. Or maybe I haven't seen anybody actually concede to me in a very long time. Yeah, super dangerous, microtransaction-y, I assume is how the game is going to work. If it doesn't work through microtransactions, then it works through, you have to have the Nintendo Online service. If it was just you had to have the Nintendo Online service, after a while, well, that wouldn't be any different than any other online game, because all the games, except for the very first generation of Switch online games, required a Nintendo Online service. So it has to be full of microtransactions. There's nothing else in there, unless it's just one major transaction, which is what Mario Run tried to do, and nobody was interested in that. You can see the experimentation going on in their head. They're like, well, we made this much money when we made a mobile game that was free to start. Let's see what it's like when we make something like a mobile game and put it directly on the Nintendo eShop, and then don't have to give a cut to Google or Apple. Which I imagine is exactly what they're trying to avoid. Moving on, TechRaptor has the same article. Assassin's Creed Rebel Collection swings out to the Switch this December. I've never played Black Flag or Rogue. Apparently it also includes Freedom Cry and Avaline DLC. I think Freedom Cry is some DLC or something. Yeah, I'm most interested in Freedom Cry and seeing what that is. Let's do a little Google search and do some research and figure out what that is. Oh, I put that on the wrong end. Let's see. Is Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry a full game? Is the first question. Is there a Switch link, a Steam link we could look at? Let's see. Steam. Right.
This was not in my contract.
What do we want to do otherwise? Nothing right now, I guess.
Fight, maggot.
Just draw cards.
Job's done.
So here's Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry. It's mixed in the last 30 days, mostly positive here. There's a standalone version on Steam. This has third-party DRM Ubisoft Uplay. Apparently it is also ignored and on my wish list, which I don't know what that means, but it probably means that it comes for free in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Yeah. Already on Assassin's Creed Black Flag and want to play Freedom Cry missions, check out the Assassin's Creed Black Flag Freedom Cry DLC pack. Okay. So, you get these missions anyways. Please note, if you already own Assassin's Creed Black Flag Gold Edition or Assassin's Creed Season Pass, the Freedom Cry missions are already included in the game. So they sold it in such an awkward way that I'm gonna have to do some research. I think I probably do own Black Flag.
So many possibilities.
That's probably where this boils down to. I definitely own a lot of the Assassin's Creed games. So Syndicate, yeah, I bet that never gets bundled. Rogue, Unity, I bet that doesn't get bundled. Let's see. Let's do this. And then do this. And then this. And then this. And then this. And draw a card. There you go. Yeah, alright. So, we can see here, I already own Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I could get a bundle here, which would get Rogue and Syndicate for $80, which is way too expensive. And apparently I don't own the DLC. So there's something, I guess, to be done with that. Like, I don't really see a reason to own the game separately instead of just buying the DLC for another $31. Or spend $19.99 for the season pass, which would, I assume, give me a lot of these things. Although I don't really care to get time saver resource packs. So yeah, you could see definitely why people would be upset about the way this whole thing works. Is that there is just this confusing system that they've set up to intentionally make it confusing.
Taunt is in the way.
Didn't play fast enough. Well, interestingly, it says the season pass is already in my library too. So, like, I already own it too? Man, what a mess. What a mess Ubisoft made of the Steam store. And if you want to talk about anything Steam has some kind of right to be upset about, I think this is by far the thing to be upset about, is the fact that they totally screwed with the store and created what can only be described as consumer confusion, just so that they could get a few more bucks. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do a ton of research there, just to clean up my own wish list, since I just accidentally wish listed things that I don't need to wish list. And no wonder they're on the ignore list. Just how confusing that is. 4 different places you can buy Freedom Cry, a game that is probably getting negatively reviewed because of the fact it's so confusing. Confusingly labeled. Moving on, Gematsu has an article for the Switch. Tokyo Mirage Seasons at #FE Encore is coming to the Switch on January 17th, 2020. I've heard of the Tokyo Mirage series, but I don't know what kind of game it is. Apparently it's an RPG series. I'm not sure if the Tokyo Mirage series has come to I guess this is a half Fire Emblem game too. I've definitely heard of Fire Emblem, but I don't know if Tokyo Mirage has come to the West. It seems like it's mostly this is a dancing game, or there's at the very least a lot of movement and dancing happening in the fight sequences. Let's come back here and just look at this. Like, yeah, there's a lot of fighting, but it's just a ton of movement too.
So many possibilities.
And definitely some dancing too. So, I don't know if Tokyo Mirage is kind of like a Persona game where in reality they're dancing, but in a in the other universe, whatever it is, they're fighting. Come on, Tech Raptor. Tech Raptor incredibly slow to load. Always. Tech Raptor has the same article. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast is coming to Switch, or returning to Switch. I guess it's returning in general, but returning to Switch is an inaccurate description of what's going on, because I don't believe it's been on the Switch before. Tech Raptor has the article, Pokemon Sword and Shield customization camp, curry cooking, and new Pokemon. So new things. Seems like they're announcing over 100 something, whether that's 100 Pokemon, which would be below the 150 of the original Pokemon series, or 100 curries that you can cook. Yeah, 100 recipes for curries. I don't think you really need 100 recipes for curries in Pokemon games. You're getting dangerously far away from the simplified babies first babies first RPG at that point. There you go. So yeah, seems like they're making the game more complicated for no reason. TechCrafter has the same article, Deadly Premonition 2, A Blessing in Disguise, launches next year. Maybe some different screenshots here. Video. Twitter, you have to use Twitter cookies now. I need to go and turn back my ad blocking on my browser at this point too. There's kind of no reason not to. I doubt I'll even bother to try to install a new driver. I did upgrade the BIOS on at least one of my video cards as I was just installing ridiculous things left and right. I've never seen that before though. I've never seen that here's a new BIOS for your 2080 RTX graphics card that will change the speed settings and one would hope improve the speed settings and not make them worse. That certainly was not something you could do for the 970 GTX, for instance. So it does go to show that we're seeing a increasing amount of relying on microcode, BIOS code, basically for hardware, particularly peripheral hardware instead of just a CPU itself. Which it'll be interesting to see where that ends up going, whether that's better or worse than just installing drivers. And I suspect probably some drivers did install BIOSes on graphics cards in rare occasions, but not very often. I imagine the amount of RAM or permanent memory, not RAM, but static RAM, permanent RAM, flashable RAM on a graphics card up until this point has been incredibly small, so trying to upload a BIOS and change things would have been difficult, to say the least. I'm about to lose here, but it doesn't matter.
Well played. Flash fails. Try crystal.
Next we have an article from that Cropter. Doom 64 blasts its way to the Switch this November. We'd already heard this. On top of this, somebody made a Doom mod that plays Doom 2016 using Doom 2, Doom 1 WADs. I think I'll probably seek that out. As for Doom 64 coming to the Switch, yeah, okay, that's fine, but that really isn't anything that affects me, because I don't cover nor play games on the Switch, and I don't think I'm a big enough Doom fan to justify wanting to even try to play Doom 64. I didn't play it when it came out for the Nintendo 64, so I don't have that nostalgia. Alright, well, that's it for the Americas account, so this is a decent place to end our recording. We are an hour and 15 minutes in, so we're gonna probably have pretty long streams today, try to get through all the news, and then move on if we have anything left to Friday. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.